It's maybe contract, maybe some other stuff.
Maybe Carlos's dad and Juan Carlos had a different vision. Some people think maybe they couldn't get a contract together.
This shifts everything for Carlos.
5 words ruined Carlos Alcaraz's Sunday, and he typed them himself. On July 12, 2026, Jannik Sinner lifted the Wimbledon trophy on center court. The same trophy Carlos won in 2023, won again in 2024, and fought for in the final just last year. Carlos watched it from home, his right wrist wrapped, his season in pieces. And then, minutes after the ceremony, he opened Instagram and posted 5 words that lit the tennis internet on fire. "Congratulations, Jannik and team. Enjoy the moment." That was it. A trophy emoji, a plant emoji, done. Except nobody believed it was done because within hours, fans and analysts were pulling those 5 words apart like a crime scene. Was it class? Was it a warning? Was it a champion quietly bleeding in public? One expert breakdown finally put the pieces together, and what it reveals about the mind of a 23-year-old watching another man wear his crown is colder, sharper, and far more dangerous than any trophy speech you heard that day. There is a message hidden inside that message, and by the end of this video, you will never read the words "enjoy the moment" the same way again. Subscribe if you want tennis drama built on actual receipts, and drop your first reaction in the comments, because I genuinely read every single one. Alright, let us dig into what really happened. To understand what those 5 words cost him, you first have to understand what that grass means to Carlos Alcaraz. Because Wimbledon was never just another tournament for this kid, it was the kingdom. In 2023, at 20 years old, he walked onto center court and took the title off Novak Djokovic in 5 sets, ending an era with a smile on his face. In 2024, he came back and did it again, dismantling the same legend in straight sets, the most ruthless final of his young life. In 2025, he reached the final a 3rd time and lost it to Sinner, the match that turned a rivalry into a war. 3 straight finals, 2 titles. No major on earth has seen him in the championship match more often. When people say Sinner won the Wimbledon title this month, understand what the Alcaraz camp hears. They hear his title, and the cruelest part is how he lost it, because he never lost it on a court. He lost it in April on a random Tuesday in Barcelona when something in his right wrist gave out mid-tournament, an inflamed tendon sheath. 4 words that sound like nothing and took everything. Madrid, gone. Rome, gone. The French Open, where he was the defending champion of the greatest final ever played, gone. Queens, where he was the 2-time defending champion, gone. And then the announcement that actually hurt, the one where Carlos admitted the recovery was moving but not moving fast enough, and withdrew from Wimbledon itself. 2 of his trophies live on that grass. He did not even get to walk past them. But here is the detail that tells you everything about his state of mind, the detail most channels skipped. Carlos did not look away. He could have unplugged, hidden in El Palmar, protected himself from the sight of his kingdom carrying on without him. Instead, he watched. During the quarterfinal between Djokovic and Felix Auger-Aliassime, when the referee stopped play to close the roof and controversy exploded across center court, guess who popped up on Alex Corretja's Instagram Live, analyzing the situation in real time, wondering out loud which player the roof would favor. The injured king sitting at home, doing free commentary on his own stolen kingdom. Sit with that for a second. That is not a man who has moved on. That is a man pressing his face against the glass. And while he watched, the tournament produced exactly the ending he feared most. Because the man on the other side of that glass was having the season of a lifetime. Jannik Sinner arrived at this final carrying numbers that barely sound real. 44 wins, 3 losses in 2026. Every single Masters 1000 he entered, he won. Indian Wells, Miami, Monte Carlo, Madrid, Rome. All 5 a clean sweep only Djokovic had ever managed before him. And in Monte Carlo, buried in that streak is a detail worth remembering. The final he won there in April came against Carlos Alcaraz, days before the wrist gave out. That was their only meeting of the year. Sinner took it, took the #1 ranking with it, and Carlos has not finished a tournament since. Now fast forward to the Wimbledon final against Alexander Zverev, the man who had already cashed in on Carlos's absence by winning the French Open. Zverev came out swinging and actually stole the first set in a tiebreak. For one set, the machine glitched. Then it corrected. Sinner took the second set breaker 7 points to 2, ground out the third 6-3, closed the fourth 6-4, and finished the entire tournament, including matches against Djokovic and Zverev, without ever being broken. Not once. His second consecutive Wimbledon, his fifth major, his 17th big title, extending his lead over Carlos in the category that historians actually count. And when the rankings updated on Monday, the dagger landed. Zverev climbed to world number 2, and Carlos Alcaraz, the man who started this season winning the Australian Open, dropped to number 3 without hitting a single ball. He lost ground sitting on his couch. Now go back and read those 5 words again. Congratulations, Jannik and team. Enjoy the moment. Feels heavier already, doesn't it? Good. Because the real decoding starts now. Here is where this story earns its title. Because when experts and fans sat with that message, they found not one meaning, but 3, stacked inside each other like a Russian doll. The first layer is the obvious one, the one the polite headlines ran with. Pure class. A champion congratulating a champion. The kind of sportsmanship that makes this rivalry the healthiest superstar feud tennis has had in decades. These two genuinely like each other, and nobody serious disputes it. Fine. Layer 1 accepted. But then people looked closer at the second half of the message, and the temperature changed. Enjoy the moment. Why that phrase? Why not incredible performance? Why not see you soon? Why not anything else? The sharper analysts pointed straight at the scoreboard that the ceremony conveniently ignored. Across their last 10 meetings, Carlos Alcaraz leads Jannik Sinner 7 matches to 3. In the pressure furnaces, the record gets even more lopsided. Carlos beat him in the French Open final of 2025, the Cincinnati final, the US Open final. Sinner's Wimbledon win over him last year stands almost alone, so when the man who owns you in finals tells you to enjoy the moment, plenty of fans read it as a receipt with a smile on it. Enjoy it, while I am gone. Enjoy it, because moments end. Layer 2, the velvet warning. And then there is layer 3, the one the psychology-minded experts landed on, and honestly the one that cuts deepest. That message was not only written for Sinner, it was written for Carlos. Sports psychologists will tell you that the injured elite athlete faces one enemy bigger than the injury itself: disappearance. The tour forgets fast. Rankings bleed, narratives move on. Posting that message, publicly, instantly, was Carlos refusing to disappear, planting a flag in Sinner's biggest moment that said, "I am still here. I am still watching, and this conversation is not finished." And notice what he did not say: no mention of the final itself, no praise for the tennis, no word about the trophy that used to be his. Just the man, the team, and the moment, as if the title were on loan and everybody involved understood the terms. Champions choose their words the way they choose their targets on a second serve. Nothing about this one was casual. 3 layers, 5 words. That is not a congratulation, that is chess. And if you think that reading is too dramatic, listen to what happened next, because the most revealing reaction of the entire weekend did not come from Carlos at all. It came from the winner. Standing there with the trophy, having just completed one of the great Wimbledon campaigns in modern history, Jannik Sinner used his moment, to talk about the guy who was not there. "We hope Carlos is coming back," he said, "because tennis needs him." Read that again. The world number 1 on his greatest day, publicly admitting the sport is incomplete without the man he just replaced on the honor board. That is respect, absolutely. But it is also an admission that every expert caught immediately. Sinner knows exactly what shape this title has. He beat Djokovic, he beat Zverev, he dropped one set all fortnight, and it was magnificent. And still, somewhere in the back of every tennis mind, including his own, sits the question that no trophy can answer. What happens when the wrist heals? Sinner did not dodge that shadow, he named it. And that tells you these 5 words landed exactly where they were aimed. Now for the part that should genuinely worry you if you love watching this kid play. Because congratulating your rival is the easy part. Surviving what comes after is not. The experts urging caution right now are not talking about feelings. They are talking about history, and the history of wrist injuries in tennis is a graveyard. Juan Martín del Potro was a US Open champion at 20, built like a heavyweight, hitting forehands nobody had ever seen, and wrist surgeries hollowed out the prime of his career. Dominic Thiem won the US Open in 2020, hurt his wrist in 2021, and was never the same player again, not for 1 week, until the day he retired. That is the company this injury keeps, and it is exactly why former players have been publicly begging Carlos not to rush. Greg Rusetsky studied the training clips Carlos posted from his academy, noticed he still was not completing a full service motion, and said flat out he would be surprised to see him at the US Open. The US Open, the title Carlos is defending, the hard-court fortress where he beat Sinner in 4 sets last September while facing a single break point all night. Even the comeback runway is shrinking. He has already withdrawn from the Canadian Open, and Cincinnati, his other title defense, is hanging by a thread. So picture the equation inside that 23-year-old head right now. Rush back and you risk becoming the next cautionary tale. Wait and you watch your points burn, your rivals feast, and your trophies get handed out one by one while you type congratulations under each of them. That is what those 5 words really cost. Not pride, time. The one thing even 7 Grand Slams cannot buy back. And every week the wrist stays wrapped, the price goes up. Zverev is above him now. Sinner is nearly 5,000 ranking points clear at the top. The gap is not closing while he heals. It is compounding. But here is the twist this saga deserves. The reframe that every expert who has watched a great champion sit in the dark eventually arrives at. Messages like that one are not white flags, they are fuel receipts. This sport has seen this movie before. Djokovic tore his elbow apart in 2017, watched his rivals collect majors, and came back to win 12 more. Nadal was written off after nearly every injury of his career and answered every single obituary with a trophy. The pattern is brutal and beautiful. The all-time greats do not just recover from watching someone else lift their title, they weaponize it. And Carlos Alcaraz, remember, is not rebuilding from nothing. This is the man who started 2026 by winning a 5-hour, 27-minute semifinal against Zverev on cramping legs, then beat Djokovic in the Australian Open final to become the youngest man in history to complete the career Grand Slam. 22 years old, 7 majors, every surface conquered. That player did not vanish in April. He is in a gym in Murcia right now, swinging a racket with a surgically watched wrist, and every highlight of Sinner kissing that golden trophy is being filed away in the same place champions keep everything that hurts. So let us give this story the ending it has earned. What does it really do to Carlos Alcaraz to congratulate the man winning his title? It burns. Anyone telling you otherwise is selling you a fairy tale. But the 5 words were never about hiding the burn, they were about aiming it. Congratulations Yannick and team, because class costs nothing. Enjoy the moment, because the man who wrote it fully intends to end it. The countdown is already running. Cincinnati in August, the US Open right behind it, both with Alcaraz's name engraved as defending champion, both with Sinner waiting at world number 1, both with a rivalry that has now been starved for exactly long enough to be dangerous. The next time these two share a court, it will not be an Instagram story. It will be a reckoning. Told you those 5 words would read differently by the end. So here is your assignment. Drop your verdict in the comments. Was that message pure class, a hidden warning, or a promise? And tell me who wins the next Alcaraz-Sinner final, because it is coming. If this breakdown gave you the full story behind the headline, get subscribed right now, because this channel decodes the drama with actual facts every single time. I will see you in the next one.